This is not all the information.
I'm sorry?
This is not all the information that I used to create this chart.
Okay, where did you get this for April 20th?
Again, I told you before, there's information that was provided to me by defense.
What was that?
It was a written summary of the chart. I don't have it with me.
So you never reviewed the medical records?
I stated previously I reviewed all of the medical records.
Okay, so let me ask about the medical records. Is there a 300 milligram dose of Demerol on April 20th?
There is not.
Okay. Is there a 2 or 200 milligram dose of midazolam for April 20th?
There is not.
Okay. Looking at defense WWW, again for May, just to be clear then, these dosages of midazolam are 2 milligram doses, correct?
I don't have that information in front of me. You want to share? Or should I look here?
Aren't you holding the medical records?
Yeah. You want me to look in the medical records? I'm
Yeah,
just asking.
For the month of May, I'm just asking about the way you built your chart. The
Same technique.
Okay, so the reflections on the chart for midazolam are 2 milligram doses for May.
Correct. What it is, again, is summary of doses on a given day. There were multiple doses on given days, but you won't see multiple doses on the chart. You just see the total daily dose as I reviewed it from the written statements that were given to me and the chart.
June 2009, may this be marked people as 229 for identification?
Yes.
Looking at going forward to June, Doctor, can you tell me what dose was received on June 2nd as reflected in your chart?
I don't think there was a visit on June 2nd.
Okay, so on people's 229.
According to the office chart.
On people's 229, I'm going to cross out this entry. And then there was one, however, on June 3rd, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And how about...
May I interrupt for a moment?
No, Mr. Chernoff will have a chance to
Okay.
ask you questions.
Okay.
Going to June 4th, could you tell me what the medical records show on June 4th?
This office chart does not have a visit on June 4th.
So this entry is incorrect, correct?
Yes.
And again, as with the other months, the midazolam dosages are 2 milligram, correct?
The total dose on June 3rd was 2 milligrams.
Across the whole chart, I'm just asking, it's the same as the other months. The 2 represents 2 for midazolam. It represents in the hundreds.
Yes. No, there's no change in the units.
Now, you were aware that during these months, and let's just stick primarily with May and June 2009, you were aware that Conrad Murray was Michael Jackson's personal physician?
I don't have any personal knowledge of that, no.
Mike, were you aware that from the evidence in this case that Conrad Murray was Michael Jackson's personal physician for the months possibly April, May, and June 2009?
I don't know when he started, so I'm not party to that information.
Wouldn't you want to know that information, who his personal doctor was?
My focus was very specific, and I did not want to know who his personal doctor was or where he got his care. My focus was specific with respect to his opioid use.
You didn't want to know who his personal doctor was?
I mean, I was under the impression, again, as I said, I know that he had a relationship with Dr. Murray. I don't know when it started. So the reason I said I don't know to your question is you gave me a time frame. I don't know when the time frame began.
You actually said you didn't want to know.
It wasn't pertinent to me at that time, no.
So you're evaluating whether someone's addicted, whether they're receiving proper care, and you don't want to know who their personal physician is, who is seeing them nearly every single day.
Michael Jackson was not my patient. I didn't examine, interview, or interact with him.
I didn't ask you that, Dr. Waldman.
Why?
I didn't ask you that.
Again.
No question pending. Thank you. You didn't want to know who Michael Jackson's personal physician was?
Michael Jackson wasn't my patient.
Okay. Non-responsive. Motion to strike.
Sustained. The answer is stricken.
You didn't want to know, in your evaluation of this case, you didn't want to know who Michael Jackson's personal physician was during the months that you've been testifying about?
I think from the look, Michael Jackson had multiple personal physicians.
Motion to strike, non-responsive.
Sustained.
Your Honor, this is outside the scope of direct. It's already been established what he
Just a moment, please. We're not going to have argument. The objection is sustained. The answer is stricken.
Dr. Waldman, in your evaluation of this case and the evidence in this case, did you?
My objection, though, is it's outside the scope of direct and the scope of what he
All
was.
right. The objection is sustained, beyond the scope.
Dr. Waldman, in your evaluation of this evidence, wasn't it important for you to know who Michael Jackson's personal physician was at the time?
It's the same objection, and it's asked and answered.
The objection is sustained.
It has not been answered, Your Honor.
Thank you. The objection is sustained. Your next subject area.
You indicated that you had considered what was out in the public arena. Weren't you aware that Conrad Murray, from news reports, was Michael Jackson's personal doctor?
When I was in the dialysis unit when Michael Jackson was pronounced and I heard the news.
Motion to strike, non-responsive.
Sustained. The answer is stricken.
Weren't you aware from public reports that Conrad Murray was Michael Jackson's personal doctor during this time you've testified about?
Again, if you would give me a time frame, I'll give you my best answer.
Did you hear my question during this time you've testified about?
What time? Give me dates.
You've testified about April, May. Actually, you testified about March, April, May, and June, correct?
I only testified about Dr. Arnold Klein's office dermatology record, sir.
Weren't you aware from what was out in the public arena that during the months preceding Michael Jackson's death, Conrad Murray was in fact his personal physician?
I'm going to tell you again, I really don't pay much attention to the public arena with respect to this specific event or trial. I didn't pay attention.
But you
I think it
previously
maintains my objectivity.
But you previously said that you did consider what was out in the public arena in making a determination as to whether Michael Jackson was an opioid addict, correct?
I'm referring to past history and behaviors from the 1980s, from the 1990s.
Okay, so
that's really what I'm referring to.
When it
not
supported your
April of 2008, sir.
Okay. When it supported your opinion, you brought in outside sources, and when it did not support your opinion, you did not.
Gross misstatement.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor.
Mr. Waldman, anything further? On recross?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Redirect? Mr. Chernoff.
5 minutes, Judge.
Thank you.
When I first talked to you, I sent you out basically a series of a summary of Arnold Klein's medical records, right?
A written summary, correct.
And you, in trying to understand the medical records, asked your secretary to put together some diagrams or charts, right?
The diagrams or charts were created by the documentation that you sent me plus the chart. That's correct.
Right. And then
in addition,
yes.
I also want to tell you, the copy that I received, the dates were very, very difficult to read. It wasn't anywhere even remotely as clear as this document here. I think it had been copied probably 4 or 5 times.
Right.
And emailed.
Yeah, right. But, well, it had watermark on it and everything else, right?
Correct.
Okay. But then we went over these charts and we talked about the mistakes, the problems with them, right?
Yes.
And then we didn't use them as a result.
Correct.
These were introduced by Mr. Chernoff.
They were introduced to show the
Just a moment,
process,
please.
not.
Just remember?
Well, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the invitation. Sustain. Just follow through. Mr. Chernoff, thank you.
These charts were never designed to be introduced to anybody. Isn't that right?
Relevant.
The objection is sustained.
Okay. Did I ask you to prepare these charts?
No.
Okay. You prepared them for your own notes, right?
I did because I thought it would be valuable to just look at the at it in a large scope
Then later,
over a period of time.
okay. Then later we went over the medical records, is that right?
Correct.
And we made those corrections.
Correct.
Okay. When I spoke to you and hired you on this case, what was the scope of the employment? What is it that you were supposed to address and look at in this case?
Opioid abuse, addiction, dependence, opioid withdrawal, treatment for opioid dependence, period.
Did you do anything with regard to any other issue in this case?
I did not.
You just addressed that particular issue, is that right?
Very specifically, period.
All right. Now, we talked about some of the mistakes in the records. For instance, we see that in April 20, your personal chart, we see that on April 20th, there was no use of Demerol, but it turns out there was the 21st there was use of Demerol, right?
Correct.
And then we had differing days and the like on your personal charts. Is that right? Is that
I'm
right?
sorry,
That's characterization. Counsel introduced these into evidence.
Just a moment. Let's not have argument. Remember, the objection's overruled. You can finish your question, please.
Please rephrase.
The days that you had on your personal chart that was offered, all right, by the people, that
Misstates that what occurred. Defense counsel introduced these charts.
The
people
objection is
229,
the objection is sustained. You're going to have to refer to a particular exhibit, please.
people's 229, people's 228 that they were talking about, your personal charts, right?
Yes.
There were other days that were missing from those charts, and there were some days that were added from those charts, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And later we addressed all that, you and I, and we made those corrections. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, the medical records that have been introduced in this case, they are clear about the dates. These are clear medical records. They have the dates and the amounts. Is that right?
They have the dates, but I'm going to tell you the copy I got was relatively illegible with respect to dates.
Well, my question, though, is that...
They are all dated.
Yes, they're all dated. All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. We recross?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. May Dr. Waldman step down and leave subject to recall, Mr. Chernoff?
Yes, Judge. Thank you.
Mr. Waldman?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Dr. Waldman, I want to thank you for your testimony. Sir, please don't discuss your testimony or the facts of the case with any other witness until we finish the trial. You may step down and leave. However, you are to remain on call throughout the rest of the case, which means you're subject to being recalled if necessary. Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take the noon recess at this time. Of course, please remember all the written and verbal admonitions, and we'll see you back at 2 o'clock. We have some other matters to discuss, so we'll be in recess from your standpoint until 2 p.m. Thank you.